Okay, so here we are. Today we're going to be talking about social psychology. Social psychology is one of my favorites, and I'm completely bummed out to not be in person with you guys right now. However, we're going to make the best of it. So I posted 2 crash course videos to go along with this and maybe a couple more lectures. So please do review those. I know that in the crash course videos he talks really fast, so it's important that you maybe watch it twice so you can get the key concepts from that. So social psychology is really interesting and really cool. Social psychology is the study of how human beings are social creatures. We are all interconnected with tons of people. Case in point, the global pandemic that's happening. We're passing it from one person to the next, and next up, COVID-19 is everywhere. So we are very social creatures for the most part, and without social interaction, without strong social support, we have negative outcomes. And so we're going to talk about some of those. Social psychology is the study of how living among others influences humans' thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Okay, there's tons of topics in social psychology. We're not going to have time to cover all of them. If you're interested, there's a 200-level social psych course that you can take that will get in more depth with all these topics. But the self and identity, so how do we develop our identity? What gets included in our identity? Prejudice, discrimination, social influence, so how you influence other people, interpersonal processes, violence and aggression, and pro-social behavior, so anything that you do for the good of the world, like staying home right now. Okay, so first we're going to talk a little bit about social influence. So the study of social influence is how other people and social forces that they create, so not necessarily just the presence of other people, but the social forces created by other people, how those influences our behavior. So the presence of, say, your parent or your teacher can drastically change your behavior, right? Maybe it doesn't, but probably it does. And that's just one part of it. So the presence of others can drastically influence how you behave, how you think, and how you feel. So first, let's talk about conformity. Conformity is when you are in a group or you feel pressure from a group and you decide to behave in a way that's similar to what everyone else is doing. So that's conformity, just doing what everyone else is doing. Yeah, so conformity is due to several different spheres of influence. Why do we conform? Well, there's informational social influence and normative social influence. Informational social influence is that you might think that the people around you have more information than you do. This is especially true if you're in a novel situation, so a situation you haven't been in before, or if you're maybe on the younger side and there's people around you who are maybe older or more well-versed in whatever situation you're in. So informational social influence is I conform because I think that people around me have more information than I do. And then normative social influence is I'm going to conform, I'm going to do the same thing as everyone else, dress the same as everyone else because everyone else is doing it. So if every single other person or most other people are demonstrating whatever the behavior attitude is, there's just the likelihood that you're going to go along with that. You don't want to rock the boat. And then there are always situational factors associated with conformity, okay? And so we're going to talk more about those in a little bit. So one of the first research studies was done by Sharif, and it was social psychologists, let me just back up, love to use a little bit of deception in their experiments, okay? So in this research study, it was advertised as a visual perception study. Okay, so they're telling these participants, the participants are coming in to the lab to participate, and they're saying, this is a study on visual perception. Because of the autokinetic effect, if you are in a completely dark space and there is a point of light, even though that light point is not moving, it will appear to move, and that's the autokinetic effect. If you're in a completely dark space and you see a point of light, it's gonna, if you look at it long enough, it'll look like it's moving. And so the Sharif study took participants in to these dark rooms and had them estimate how far back and forth they thought the light was moving. Now, of course, the light's not moving at all. It's just a trick of your brain, perception. But when you have people going alone versus going in groups, as you can imagine, the groups started slowly coming together in terms of their estimates. So over time, they became more and more similar, and this is based on the informational social influence. People in this situation, they want to be correct, they want to have the right answer, and there are other people who are giving estimates that are different than theirs, and so they're going to start being more and more similar. So informational social influence comes from the desire to be correct. Normative social influence is demonstrated by the ASH study, and I'm going to post a video that's just about 2 minutes long that looks at the ASH study. Very funny. They also said that their research was about a visual perception, but it was not. Participants were in a group of people. Everyone except for the true participant was a confederate, which means that was a researcher that was pretending to be a participant. And so in the ASH study, they were presented with easy line judgments. So they were shown this image, okay, and they said, you need to tell us which of the comparison lines, 1, 2, or 3, matches the standard line, right? That's pretty easy to see unless you have some sort of serious visual issue. And you can see that 2 is the correct answer, okay? Well, as it turns out, if you are in a group of people and everyone in the group chooses 3 instead of 2, more often than not, you will go ahead and say 3 instead of 2. Now, this is clearly not related to the desire to be correct, because it's clearly incorrect, but from normative social influence, the desire for approval. Okay, and so go and watch that video. It's right underneath this one about the ASH study.